Welcome everyone to another Linux live stream here. Linus Torvalds just released 5.19. They're going through the media this time not because Linux is amazing stuff, but hey YOLO, stop the presses. He's freaking switching to an M2 MacBook, similar to ourselves, right? Not only decades ago, Linus followed our own PowerPC addiction there with an IBM 970 G5 or so probably, but now also similar to us, using the latest and greatest thread ripping performance and energy efficiency for his portable Linux development fun here. And this is also the thing, right? Linux is the world's best kernel and stuff, everyone's using it, and the media jumps on, hey, he's using an ARM, Apple Silicon, M2 MacBook. So yeah, what's new here as we run a whole freaking Linux distribution, certainly the recurring stuff we take a look at. As so often, after 30 years of development, the incremental improvements, ticks and talks, they're not actually that much here. 10,000 of changes, not that much to see. Let's take a look. Tagged and pushed, full short log, yeah, that is just for RC8, obviously. Longs and arch updates, like, yeah, why do they even bother with this Chinese MIPS variant there that nobody obviously is using, but that's another matter for another video. Otherwise, yet another batch of network system access control read once annotations there to make some data race checker code happy. Other than that, really just a mix of bags, various odds and ends. We will take a closer look. And then he says, on a personal note, here finally his dream come true of an ARM64 laptop. Also, yeah, a little bit late, right? Ourselves, we have been using ARM since actually my second on x86 thing was a Xeon Revo, which obviously I've run Linux on in 1999 or so, or year 2000. So yeah, 20 years later, Linus Torvalds discovers ARM. A little bit, in my opinion, he could have done that a very long time. Sure, it is more high performance now, but also performance is relative. 10 years ago, he could have easily used an ARM netbook if he really wanted to, especially for lots of text editing use cases. That would have been more than enough, right? But anyway, not really sure why that is the most noteworthy, especially given his tiny little hobby Linux kernel is running on probably nearly 30 architectures minus a couple of they have deleted, making that probably like 28 or so. Something he'd been waiting for a long time, finally a reality, thanks to a Psi Linux team, reverse engineering. This is ARM64, Apple Silicon, and third time switching to Apple Linux hardware for Linux development. The PowerPC PPC 970. Actually, I have to say, for me, PowerPC 970, I got a G5 myself, previous video, highly upgraded and stuff, even a custom quad CPU in the single socket there for a little bit more performance. But in retrospect, the PowerPC 970 was a little bit lacking, a little bit power hungry for bus throughput limited and stuff. But anyway, let's take a closer look. I find it a recurring theme. I find it a little bit disappointing of the huge Linux team with 10,000 of developers in the Linux Foundation of not compiling a really nice changelog here. Basically, we get none here that is, in my opinion, for this hobby operating system, it would actually be nice if they compiled a proper changelog. This is a little bit disappointing that they leave that for other individual developers to do that for their hobby fun. The Linux kernel newbie wiki still compile that, so let's take an early look. However, there is nothing that much more outstanding, right? 30 years, what do you expect? We can mix that with here some other news sites listing. Also, by the way, the next Linux 520 likely eventually to be called Linux 6. To me, this numbering is a little bit, it lost a meaning after they stopped the stable and unstable development series. And so for me, it would even not matter. If it were for me, they could also call it Linux kernel 278 or so. Why to just call the 6 now without major changes is a little bit pointless. But let's see there. So other summary is improved support for Apple MacBook running ARch64 M2 SoC, and continued work on AMD Zen 4 enablement, as well as AMD RDNA 3. Continue to work on Intel Direct discrete graphic, Alder Lake, initial Raptor Lake P graphic support, set standard compressed firmware. Something that we have done here live on this channel, right? If you go back last year, we actually did this. A little bit disappointing. This is also why not only I need to next write a microkernel, but yeah, I do the work here, right? I implement set standard compressed firmware loading, and like the kernel developers don't even care, re-implement it the second time. But now it's in there. And otherwise, the usual nice performance improvement. If we take a closer look here, and welcome everyone, ACPS, so yeah, as usual, 10,000 of changes. We could actually fact check that if that would not be a little bit annoying with Git. But yeah, certainly 10,000 of tiny little bug fixes and tiny improvements that I wish would be nicer to summarize. ACPI, CPU idle, EFI, enable EFI runtime services by default on RT. What do they mean with RT? Do they mean... oh darn, this loads so slow. Or does it? What do they mean with RT? Do they mean disable services by default, allow disable, scan achieved if you know runtime, services disabled, preempt RT is enabled, measurements have shown that some EFI function calls might take too long. Also, yeah, 2022, obviously some EFI runtime stuff still runs alongside. So what was the allow enable by what? Allow to enable EFI runtime. Ah, okay, so this means switching that. Also, this is just in RT for more real time. Extremely tiny change. Yeah, also it's like one code line plus kconfig. Yeah. Anyway, the usual fine-grained stuff. Thermals, tools, as usual, leave me in the comments below if you find something interesting scrolling by. AHCI, RAID, NVMe Apple, yeah, initial Apple SoC NVMe driver support. SCSI core, still max device QDEVs to 4096. Staging drivers, H.264 field decode support. Remove the driver for probably some unmaintained Unisys SPAR stuff. And some apparently BCM remove compat alter card. Bluetooth, UART, AppleTalk, F10K, F11K, I can never have too many Wi-Fi drivers. Atlantic, add XDP support. I think I even have something in the office running Atlantic. Ethernet. Lots of, yeah, TI. Basically, yeah, this is why it's difficult to make a change summary, because it's just so many freaking changes. Wi-Fi X. Actually, I should actually try on the Surface Pro 3 or what I have. This Wi-Fi X is actually erroring out, especially with runtime power management support. I even notified them 5 years ago. They're basically like, yeah, YOLO, hard to fix. I wonder if that has any improvement after 5 years later. Physicals, Renesas, one audio, the usual. Hey, serial MIDI using serial bus API. Hey, 20 is like what we've done on FPGA. 2022 Linux gets generic serial MIDI driver. I wonder who needed that. That's the fun stuff. You wonder 2022 why, but there you have it. HDA audio, the usual quirks and features. Tegra, ASOC for all the embedded SOC stuff. Tons of those, obviously. Tablet touch screen, Raspberry Pi, Sense joystick driver, Sun 4i, clock reset, HID, TV tuners for those who still run analog aka digital TV. Atmel I2C, Universal Servers. Actually, very little. I wonder there probably is more. That's just this kernel Nubis wiki. This is Designware 2 and 3. That's also at times used in Apple Silicon, and I think Designware 3 there. Hey, welcome there. Happy that you support our YouTube channel here with level 3 membership. Highly appreciated. SPI for the serial peripheral interface. New driver, it support GPIO. Watchdog serial 2022. People still fiddle around with 8250 from the original XTPC stuff, also used in lots of other hardware, Silicon Sun and such. CPU frequency scaling. So like, yeah, you guessed it already, right? Voltage, real-time, pin control. Pin control, by the way, that you learned something. Pin control is 4 sockets that have one pin to like 4 functions like GPIO, serial, maybe some audio I2S. And then you need to configure what you want to use on this pin, right? You can obviously only use one of those like 4 or something multiplexed functions. That is why, and this is a little bit the sad thing, recurring theme here. I wish those vendors of ARM and MIPS socks would have like one standard function, but unfortunately, as you see here, we have MediaTek and Renesas and Rockchip pin control stuff. So that is, I wish there would be more of a standard. This is a little bit silly that each sock needs their own drivers. MMC, MTT for memory block devices, industrial I/O, multifunction, pulse width modulation, hardware monitoring. It's like, yeah, if you're wondering why are there 10,000 different 100,000 changes and so little to talk about, but yeah, tons of tiny little drivers, fixes, quirks, general purpose I/O to drive buttons and LEDs and stuff. LEDs even, DMA engines. Usually also not PC stuff, of course, but SOCs, hardware number generator improvements, crypto hardware acceleration, PCI. Yeah, 2022, you can still improve this, especially Thunderbolt, the never-ending stuff. Standard so complex, 1,000 pages, needs 10 years to implement in all its details. And various bus, Firewire even, assist unit driver. It's like, yeah, it's the usual stuff. I test compiled this already. Of course, usually I do this after the video. I thought that's too boring. I did this already. So we will have this in T2, our tiny little Linux distribution supporting. Also, yeah, obviously running on Apple Silicon Linux here, right? And I've done this before the live stream, otherwise it would be too boring. And it compiles, no surprise there, only for x86 today. And some patches, so the firmware support we could delete, also has like really fun stuff. I mean, not only we had for a long time, maybe a decade, some PowerPC Horizon driver name clash thing. Somehow that is somehow removed actually to the, yeah, it's probably not there. So I just deleted that. We probably, what had we done there? Probably delete, or actually, yeah, I wonder how this name clashed with something, who knows. This driver, also ATM, right? Yeah, whatever. They moved this or whatever, the file isn't there. I didn't track where it's gone, if they deleted that. And also they have new, what I patched for a long time, Apple human interface devices. Apple changed multiple times this FN handling, and that is super annoying that Apple constantly do changes. Also, they have a new automatic mode that they now have int fn mode equals 3 for automatic. Obviously we use that, and otherwise out of memory, that is a fun one. This, you would think 30 years Linux kernel so professional, but one of those 10,000 changes is they changed this int here that would be potentially external visible symbol to static to this file. So the usual, if you're wondering what do we do each and every day, it's like, yeah, we rediff stuff like that for upstream Linux kernel changes. And we should actually check what they used for the set standard compressed firmware, that it still works. So I obviously deleted that. I wrote this patch. I actually wonder if they gave me credit there. Maybe I should probably send stuff more often upstream. And so set standard firmware, do they use the same? They have here, why is here? Okay, oh wait, this is set swap. Where is the firmware? Set standard compress, decompress. Where is the freaking firmware? Firmware. Not that we push here something. I will of course commit this Linux kernel update as soon as the .1 patch is out, right? We are similar to Apple's #peakbugs, avoiding .0 numbers, especially with the Linux kernel. There usually is still something majorly broken. I learned this a couple of times. Remember the 2.6.9 or whenever the major kernel NFS and RiseFS file system corruption. All right, well, obviously get ourselves burned once and food into the shoe twice. Obviously, you learn your lesson and only update 2.1 versions. Nonetheless, we prepared that here. I just wonder what is the... actually, we can check that with 18. Here we have quite some kernels of those. Firmware loader, firmware loader, obviously. So that should be something like that one. Maybe we grab for that one. Because obviously this changes. Here's compress is set, okay. That is, maybe we should, we still have some sources from the multiple rediffs lying around here. And let's see, yeah, they have, so we need apparently both now that compress. So otherwise the name is the same, but maybe we need compress, shared. Alright, this was firmware loader. Why did... Linux common. That's not copy and paste. Firmware loader. Here, where is that? And then we probably want to build that one more time for maximized testing. And given that this stuff, oh wait a second, wait. So any specialists where breaking changes, is there any specialist with breaking changes, if any? What's the point of laptop when you never leave your room? Yeah, that is a thing, actually, probably. And that's also a really good thing if you're still here. And thanks again for joining us at level 3. I'm actually I'm not very productive working on a laptop. I actually have here this roost stand here because that is my home office right now. Usually see me live streaming from my office, but this is a home office week, raising a kid and stuff. And I made a short video here with the roost stand, not a paid advertisement, just one of the more useful laptop stands I found. And so I'm live streaming from this right now. And I'm like sitting there, also I get neck pain, right? So obviously the roost stand here, huge improvement. And even I brought the, 14-inch or whatever that is, MacBook Pro for Mac development. And I have to say, probably this might have been a mistake. Maybe I should have went with this 16-inch because I realize I don't need two displays don't, because you need to constantly, like here on this YouTube, my monitor display. But this is probably a topic for a dedicated video. I'm significantly more efficiently working with a proper keyboard. Like a proper keyboard, previous video, obviously not that. Proper. The reason I use that is mostly for convenience and testing, right? Also a proper keyboard, right? Previous video. I have this also for testing, right? Obviously often working with other embedded systems and stuff. But probably number one, sitting comfortable, like after more than 1 hour of working like constantly looking like downish on your laptop, leave in the comments below for you. And then the second, like a more proper keyboard, obviously. And actually, I would say number 2 is actually a proper height and large display. Like obviously 20 inch. In the office, I now have 28 inch. Otherwise, yeah, but 23 inch or so. So yeah, I don't get the people who sits the whole day like in like Starbucks or other. If this is a thing, so this is not what I wanted. What I even Google? Freaking can't even type anymore. People sitting, probably must be photos of something, right? It's like, yeah, that is not a productive workflow for me. Give me, so yeah, a properly height display. And then, so what was it? A properly height display, screen real estate, and a proper keyboard or so. And especially, I think Linus Torvalds got a MacBook Air or so, right? MacBook Air, yeah, so this, what even is it? So many specs, I can't remember every nonsense. I think Linus Torvalds wrote he has a, MacBook Air, which is otherwise a relatively fine device, though, but also I don't want a freaking MacBook Air. I wanted the other, what was that? Just want to look up the size, MacBook Pro. Yeah, so probably 14 inch. And previously I had a 15 inch, the 7-year Retina MacBook Pro. In retrospect, I went with that one for travel. And yeah, so the thing is, it's always not so easy, right? I needed something somewhat compact for travel. Maybe it's a somewhat matching thing because in the office I anyway have a 28 inch display now, or otherwise 23. And maybe it's good to have something for travel then, because actually in the office I don't use the built-in display at all. I plug in a display and like keep it closed. Maybe it's a better choice. It's always difficult. Maybe if I would get the 16-inch one, it would be too big to travel comfortably or stuff. But yeah, screen real estate otherwise is a limiting factor. I probably should make a dedicated video about this. And if you like never, also, yeah, with big phones nowadays, do you really need a laptop? Maybe people should also buy less stuff, right? World Overshoot Day, and also have money left for other useful stuff. Maybe a reasonable sized phone and then a powerful desktop is a better combination for most people. But leave in the comments below, because if you use an USB attached keyboard, you can also SSH with that, right? Obviously, maybe that is, before you carry more stuff and so on, maybe that is a better thing. Yeah, especially everybody probably uses it with an external keyboard and monitor. Yeah, and that is this point, right? I would even say, sure, this stuff, I would in general not really recommend Apple hardware, and I expect the power efficiency craze and stuff, but you get even quality stuff, recurring theme of Lenovo stuff, and even they have an ARM laptop, which actually might not be that much cheaper. But if you have a powerful workstation, just get like this phone, right? Nothing phone 1, 500 euro. I looked into the iPhone, right? I refuse to buy this overpriced stuff, right? I don't buy a phone for $1,000 when I get a sophisticated laptop for that. This is just silly and hilarious, and Apple does not get my money like that anymore. And also this laptop, I would call this, it's a nice display, obviously, probably kind of industry leading display, but it's also overkill. Even for me, I nearly never use this XDR stuff, right? I probably only watched one HDR video on YouTube just to test this XDR. And like also the only thing I probably have seen is this under display fingerprint stuff and this illumination, which I think looks extremely bright, right? So this is probably 10-bit or whatever. Also, yeah, graphic. What do you need HDR for illuminating effects, right? Otherwise, yeah, I mean, you get it for $500. It's certainly, truth be told, most hobby, like traveling the world YouTubers or even other professional influencer like MK, what is his name, Marcus Brown there, of MKBX, or whatever. I think MKHD. I got it. Even they don't have HDR videos, or even Linus Tech Tips. Even Linus Tech Tips made a run of everything is so incompatible and broken and stuff. It's no point. Also, for most stuff like tech review and so on, you don't need HDR. You would even, I don't even understand why Linus Tech Tips would want to do HDR videos, honestly, for dropping CPUs in HDR. Somewhat pointless. I would actually argue traveling YouTubers of sailing, sunset and sunrise in your van and stuff, HDR is more usable than tech reviews. But truth be told, this traveling videos, sailing, camping the world and stuff, they look good enough in HD or 4K, and you even for that don't really need HDR, right? And the extra efforts of filming and editing, you don't really earn that much money. Maybe once a year or like twice a year, a feature episode of traveling the Northern Lights or the Arctic in HDR maybe. But yeah, it is a nice display, but especially like I'm sort of a power user and I don't need an HDR display, right? Because I'm a power user, not power video consumer. And imagine I'm a power user and most people use their laptop even less, like for like, not like programming, but only video, only email and browsing the web. So most people have an industry-leading display to browse the web and write emails. Yeah, you probably can do the same with a €500 laptop. So let's see if that config symbol changed appropriately. Firmware loader. Like, yeah, this is not what I wanted. Why is that in there now? Just not to link excessive stuff in there. So nothing like. Wonder why do we need to epic thread rip stuff? Because we need to rebuild the Linux kernel 5 times until we're done. And we probably only find other major stuff when we test more. So yeah, I hope you learned something and found this interesting. Thanks for the new membership there. If you have any other tips and tricks here and changes, leave them in the comments below, or other to our what is your most leave in the comments below what is your most productive work environment, laptop there, like those new work methods. Yeah, exactly this kind of sitting like that. It's like I can't do that for longer than 30 minutes. It's so inefficient. Leave in the comments below what is your most efficient work setup, laptop, workstation, and other stuff in between, and what's your favorite go-to stuff. Previously it was Lenovo, except that the one laptop I wanted, they didn't ship in Europe for a long time. Actually, we could. No, I also want language I can read. Can we have like maybe? Do we have DE or stuff? Yes, we have DED. Rare laptops. I really hate websites that don't come to the point. Can you? No, I just want a freaking laptop. Is that so difficult? Oh, come on. I just want a freaking laptop and not know more about your company. That's so difficult. How can a freaking... When you need to Google a... Was it X13S or something? Snapdragon, yeah. Okay, what is this for Germany? Oh, come on. Hey, you're 90% recycled magnesium. find a reseller. No, I want to freaking buy it. Is it even... Why do I in 2022 need to manually... Oh, yeah, as with the other Ryzen SKU previously, coming soon, shop similar stuff like, yeah, thank you very much. And this is also how I ended, right? If Lenovo would have last year shipped me a, what was it, Ryzen 5000 or so SKU, which they didn't sell in Europe for nearly a year and then even discounted in the US without ever selling it in Europe. It's like, yeah, so this is how you lose your customer. Think, but please, do we have... Yeah, it means the only thing is, I mean, these are also not entry level, right? Although you have the E SKU there. So this is Gen 2, next to Gen 2. Do they even ship this now? Gen 2 AMD, also here. Do they ship this now? Or hey, finally they ship it with a freaking discount. Yeah. The crazy thing is, as much as I don't love Apple, the prices of Apple are actually not that bad, although you need, I also need to make a dedicated video about that. Of course, upgrade the memory and upgrade the SSD. The base price comes with way too little, I think 8 gigs of memory and way too small SSD, maybe 256 gigs. And if you upgrade that, you already 400 or whatever, maybe even more dollars or euros higher there. It's like, yeah, this is also high-end SKU, right? If you need this cheaper, obviously, how much memory do you get here? Do you at least get 16 gigs of... Yeah, and the crazy thing is the Apple displays, of course, a magnitude better. That is crazy. That all the PC vendors can't get as good display stuff in most of the laptops. No, nearly sold out, thank you very much. Can we, why is all the stuff so slow? Why we have 0 frames? Yeah, websites lose sales with, this is gigabit in Europe. No, I don't want all this shit. I just want to see the freaking specs. Where are the freaking specs of this thing? Yeah, also you lose sales when you don't show me the proper specs. Here is, wait, 16 gigs. So at least you get 16 gigs here for the SKU. Not sure if that is the base SKU. And so this might be, actually we could fact check that, not that we tell you incorrect things. Fact checking. Linus SKUs here, let's maybe something somewhat comparable would probably be that. And of course, getting here significantly more expensive. Also, is it even, actually not, honestly, I don't want this bloody touch bar. Also, yeah, this is a really crappy machine. Don't get this touch bar stuff. So, I mean, yeah, that is the crazy stuff, right? So, I mean, the prices are okay-ish, certainly not cheap, but yeah, this machine is of course there. And that, let's check here. What do you get as base memory here for? So why do we not see that here? It's probably also, although we only digressed here because people, okay, you get 16, okay, you get quite some significant storage. Then it's probably the Air for 1000, where it is probably, yeah, also, I mean, the M2, it's like, yeah, 200 bucks more, right? It's like, and probably both 8 gigs and 250. Let's check the more expensive one. I think they don't, do they not write it there? Yeah, 8 gigs and okay, they have 512 gigs storage, so yeah, at least bump up the storage. 16 gigs, everything below 16 gigs, of course, not future-proof, not snappy today, and even less snappy tomorrow. And okay, with a 200 euro, okay, actually that is crazy. Okay, so the M1 Air starts with a lower price only due to the, actually I would actually not call that a good deal then. If 8 gigs, I mean, you get started cheaper or less expensive, but if I understood that right, yeah, you get already a larger SSD with that. So yeah, given that you want that probably anyway because it's solder and you need to future-proof that a little bit. Also, yeah, with the 16 gig, as I said, 400 euro, exactly what I said, 1,699. Although, of course, this machine is relatively good, I'm still concerned about the longevity of the extremely thin travel keyboards. And it's still an Apple illness that the keyboards, the keycaps touch the screen, right? I always had that, probably since my first iBook in the year 2004 or so. And this is also really silly. Maybe put some paper or thin fabric in there, which I often did as a student, because it's actually really annoying. And maybe also that you always open your screen and have from you the fat and grease from your fingertips, that you obviously are unavoidable leaving an imprint on your display. I wish Apple would have a 0.5 millimeter or so of space in between, and also maybe that is how people ruin the screen. I never had this Apple screen coating coming off. There were issues like that. I never had that personally, but I never used chemicals to wipe my screen. I always only used a glove and water and stuff. So maybe, again, speculation, I don't know, but maybe that happens. I mean, maybe due to finger oil and grease, maybe other people have more aggressive stuff than I. Maybe if you work more with other stuff like paints and whatnot, or soldering, who knows, or cleaning that with chemicals, or it's just naturally shit, I don't know. It's out there, some people have it, I never had it. I only have fingertips, which are annoying enough. Anyway, that's it for this video. We digressed a little bit. I probably should make more dedicated videos for that stuff. And then it's time to soon continue with some microkernel and low-level stuff and new graphics subsystem. I hope you learned something. Let's take a quick look on the last comments here of helping people to choose their stuff. Pinebook Pro is supposedly pretty good for its price, regular Pinebook, but it's way too slow. Yeah, it's also, I got a Pine phone donated, which is super amazing. Thank you for that. And I found it, I've only run it with Xorg. I should probably test it with Sway or so. And I should also probably use it more daily. I found it a little bit slowish, but the SOC is also like 10-year-old technology, which, yeah. Carlos is wondering if foldable phones will be a good way to carry usable screen. Yeah, I'm not so sure. I think the foldable phone, or actually a foldable, you say. Yeah, yeah. I also wanted this. I was nearly tempted to maybe try a Samsung. I mostly have gone with a nothing phone because I really want a foldable phone. I'm really tired of spending all my hard-earned money. I would say I should actually try that. I think for secure shell and this kind of work that you see on screen, this whatever 6 something inch should actually be enough for SSH. And I said this before, I used my previous Retina MacBook Pro 7 years. I didn't buy a new laptop for 7 years. I only had Lenovo loan units. And yeah, I didn't buy a laptop except the Sony Vaio P vintage retro on eBay. And yeah, use the stuff 7 years, spec it a little bit higher, more memory, more SSD that you can comfortably use at 7 years. Everything less than 5 years, in my opinion, is a fail. Use the stuff forever and then give it to your friends, family, kid and stuff. And I wanted to check nothing phone screen size. 6.5 inches, probably something about what I said. I will try to secure shell that sometime soon. And I will also use less stuff, right? Climate crisis, world overshoot day, use of resources, cycle economy, huge problems for humankind in the future. And I used my stuff long, sure, I have a mountain of stuff, also lots of stuff like Sun, SGI, other vintage stuff. Basically, cycle economy, I didn't buy most stuff new. Is it good? I mean, given that recycling is mostly a scam and most stuff is actually not recycled. Maybe I would hope collecting some stuff and keeping it usable is, yeah, as long as you don't run it 24/7 and waste those electrons. Hopefully better service for the for the society. But I will use stuff even less. You see, I only buy a phone every 2.5 to 3 years, and I only wonder how long this glass here lasts. But yeah, buy less stuff. My point is buy less stuff, use it as long as possible, use it in creative ways. If you do cloud computing, maybe, yeah, I mean, why not? Also, the crazy thing is I tried this with the Samsung Galaxy S10e, with the Samsung DeX desktop extension stuff there. And why not? Maybe actually, I would actually argue most people, and I and Linus Torvalds, especially like this, is right. This is a secure shell to my office here, to Epic File Tripping Ryzen, or your cloud machine at Amazon or Google or Azure and stuff. Honestly, this stuff is powerful enough, decent smartphone. I would argue most people don't even need such a laptop anymore. Just dock this into a display and work with it. Locally, that is fast enough for most stuff. And I mean, obviously, browsing the internet, right? Scrolling so snappy that you can scroll the internet in 120 hertz. And that certainly, it's like, yeah, if you can scroll the internet at 120 hertz, probably is snappy enough for most of your stuff. Obviously, most of your work. Maybe that is a much more sustainable way to go. And I would argue, and that is certainly a bit of a scam of Apple, right? Apple tricks you in wanting an Apple Watch, which also I never really had a smartwatch. Never an Apple Watch. I also don't need the notifications, get on my nerves already. Also, we digress a little bit from the Linux kernel stuff. My point still being, buy less e-waste. I mean, each Apple Watch and stuff is e-waste. I brought 2 iPads. I always thought they could replace my computer. I never really used them much. Probably get a relatively, maybe a little bit larger phone and no tablet, and dock this with a display and keyboard and use it as your workstation. Maybe that is the most sustainable. And Apple tricks you really in wanting so much, right? Apple is not a green company. Apple is actually obviously most expensive high-end gear, but they also trick you in, instead of one device, Apple wants you to sell 4 devices. Obviously a workstation kind of. Actually, maybe it's the other way. They mostly want you to have a phone. Number one thing, you need a phone. Then obviously you need a tablet for like bigger than phone stuff. Then you also need an Apple Watch for all the notifications in between, which also crazy expensive, right? For the price for an Apple Watch, you already get freaking entry-level laptops or whole smartphones, crazy stuff. And last but not least, if you are fancy and a professional, you also need a kind of workstation, whatever, right? So instead of one device, basically you could, all your computing needs, we are at the time where you could use significantly less resources, but no, Apple wants you 4 devices. Such a green and customer-loving company they are. Anyway, probably don't get most of the stuff. We digressed a little bit as per usual, and people probably need to get distracted. The only people laugh about Apple Watches are e-waste. Yeah, and the only point for an Apple Watch, I would say, is if an Apple Watch is so intelligent that you can get away with, you don't need an iPhone anymore, and you do everything with an Apple Watch, including having it so powerful that you put your Apple Watch on your desk and have this connect wireless or so to your 4K display and basically have all your computer, Star Trek-like, in one device on your wrist, and having that as your main device. And on the go, obviously, you would need 100% speech stuff of, hey, Siri, write an email, and so on. And that working so good. Actually, I was on the Cbit 20 years ago. somewhere around 2000. Also, I wanted it slightly different. I'm not sure if I find the photo quickly here. Also, this website is a bit broken. Need to. And IBM showed some watch thing. Not sure. Was it the earliest? Something of, was it that one? Watchpad, something like that. And yeah, not sure if it was that. Maybe it was that, something like that. Like, yeah, 20 years ago, the future is one watchpad to rule all your computing needs, right? That's it for this video. We digressed a little bit as per usual. What else? Maybe one last look. But yeah, this is a little bit ask me anything and connecting with the community and spreading some more tips in between. What do we have? Let's see, we had actually quite some comments there. Wondering if foldable phones, we had that. Apple's arms are somewhat tempting, zero repairable, can't even put in SSD. Yeah, I agree. I understand, as Hector Martin points out, they have quad or whatever channel memory. So for that memory bandwidth to have to sustain that performance, I understand memory somewhat, as disappointing it is for user upgradability, but the SSD should definitely be user swappable. That is extremely user unfriendly. Work policy is over. Need to change the video. I simply said nothing. Keep mine from 5 years. No, works perfectly. Yeah. Also, I mean, this work policy is really also silly. Policy, when warranty is over, we need to change the device. Actually, why not use the device until it falls apart, right? I mean, if you anyway replace the device, why not? I understand that you want like repairable devices at work, but why not use the stuff until it stops working in 1, 2, 3, 4 years? And if it stops working, like obviously have stock, you probably anyway need to have stock. And why not keep it until it stops working and then swap it? Is that not more efficient and profitable? When consider don't want non-Windows systems more than phone. 32-bit UEFI, 64-bit Atom tablets don't have good usable. Remote and cloud machine is option for remoting, and the cloud machine is an option for not gaming. I'm not a fan. I said this years ago already with Google, and who else had streaming? Nvidia. I always said gaming streaming doesn't really work, even in Central Europe, where DOCSIS, Vodafone fail so much that obviously latency is crazy. But theoretically, given that Nvidia and Google and others have cloud gaming solutions, you could even argue you could even cloud game. Personally, not the greatest fan of that, but yeah, wanted to use an Atom-based tablet, remote display, semi-static info, email, but Linux doesn't have a good remote monitor software. Yeah, software could always improve, but anyway, that's it for this video. I hope you learned something, including probably was it IBM's watchpad. Thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, thanks for membership. Hope you learned something, and that was everything new in the Linux kernel. Have a good day or night, and I hope to see you soon for even more such fun to come.